Thank you, Michael. The first thing is the group is looking forward to this challenge. We know our history here. We know that no U.S. team has ever won in San Jose, and we're excited about the prospect of trying to do that. The way I see this group is they've been embracing challenges, from the start of qualifying, and this is just another one. I think what makes this one even more sweet is that you have the fact that you can qualify after these 90 minutes. So we're certainly looking forward to that. The guys have been doing a great job with the recovery. We have a final session today, and then we'll get ready to play tomorrow. One roster note is Reggie Cannon is back with the team. He'll be training today with the group. Thank you.
Thanks, Gregg. We'll start with Stephen Goff.
Gregg, you touched on it, but this is you're always playing to win, but there's an oddity to this game, knowing that things other than a win will push you through. How do you, especially with a young group, how do you work on that mentality not to get distracted by not having to reach certain levels to go through?
Well, it's what you choose to put your focus on, and our focus is on winning this game. We said at the start of the window we had 3 games, and our focus was to try to win each one of them, and this is no different. So it's kind of easy when you have that mentality from the beginning. I know there was questions early on about what lineup we were going to play against Mexico or how we're going to approach that game, and it doesn't change. Our mentality is to win, and we want to try to win tomorrow.
Kevin.
Gregg, thanks again for your time and congratulations on getting this far. You've been very cautious in your comments, understandably so, but people look at it and say, my God, it would take an incredible performance by Costa Rica to knock you guys out. But we're in CONCACAF as well. How does that figure? I mean, it wouldn't be beyond the realm to see something bizarre tomorrow like we did 5 years ago.
Kevin, we're not taking anything for granted. As simple as that. We're coming here to be aggressive in the game and to win the soccer game. That's our intention. We're not gonna be cautious. We're not gonna sit back. We're not gonna play for a tie. We're playing for a win. And I think that's the mentality you need. It would be strange now after 13 rounds to differ in your last game. And we know we're 90 minutes away from a potential berth in the World Cup, but it's not time to take your foot off the gas.
Grant. I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, that's just...
Good.
Greg, I think I know what your answer's going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You're a guy who doesn't, you haven't gotten to the World Cup yet here, but you're also a data guy and play the percentages. If one of your players got a red card tomorrow night and qualified, they would miss the first game of the World Cup, most likely. Does that play any role in any of the way you communicate to your players or decisions you make?
No.
Okay, it's a follow-up. When you look at this journey, this 13-game journey about to be 14, what have you personally, in what ways has this met what you expected? In what ways has what you've experienced been not what you expected?
I think it's exactly what we expected, but at times you wish it would have been different, right? We wish we would have won every single game of this round. But it's not realistic. And I think what it turns out to be is exactly what we expected. We expected it to be a challenge. We expected it to be a lot of ups and downs, a lot of trials and tribulations. And we know we have a really young group going through this for the first time. We know how difficult CONCACAF is to qualify. And then when you look at our particular cadence of games, we had some difficult games, right? El Salvador's first home game of the whole series. And that was an absolute celebration in El Salvador. You guys were down there. Honduras' first home game. So we had a lot of these little circumstances that made the games really challenging. We had the cold series, right? And that's just dealing with all this stuff. And the group has been really good at being able to focus on the next task ahead of themselves and keep going from there. But it's been certainly a challenge, but I think a challenge that made the group stronger and forced the group to grow, and that's what's important.
Ron.
Are there any superstitions or routines that you go through every game before the game? And because of the schedule and having to pretty much be packed and ready to go straight to the draw in Qatar, are you superstitious about having it be set up that way?
You know, I got over that weeks ago because I know that's a necessary evil of what we're trying to accomplish. You know, I guess they want us there at the draw, so it's going to be important that if we qualify, we're there. So we have to make these arrangements. We have to start talking about that, even though we're not qualified yet. But in terms of routine, I think like any coach or any player, you have your normal game day routine, and I'm no different. You know, I like to kind of get in a groove and reserve time where I can just think and focus a little bit. I like to exercise. I like to take a nap and prepare for the game.
Paul.
Gregg, way back when you were first named national team coach, look at the beginning of qualifying, 2017 has hung over this team, and every part of the discussion, whether it's the Gold Cup, Nations League wins, qualifying, like not really much you could have done to get rid of that until you qualify for the World Cup. I wonder now that you're 90 minutes away from that, what would it mean in the sense of maybe taking some of that pressure that's existed, that's been a part of who this team is, off their shoulders? How does it change things for your team if you accomplish that goal and maybe vanquish that ghost a little bit and can focus on the World Cup tournament?
Well, I think just pressure is part of the job, right? When this pressure ends, there'll be another pressure. That's just part of what we do. And we're lucky and privileged to be in this position. But along with this position comes those type of things that you talked about. And that's just part of the job. And I think us as a group have accepted that and have moved on from that and are focused more on what we're doing and trying to be a good team and trying to win games.
Charlie.
Gregg, fans are really excited about Gio being back to the team and contributing, and you see his quality. And you guys have both talked about being careful with him. I wonder if you could give any insider glimpse into the decision-making process and where he's at now, because clearly a very talented player who's got these soft tissue issues or whatever, however you may wish to describe them. Do you think he's a 90-minute player yet? Is he on that track? How is he dealing with?
Well, I mean, we talked about, a week ago is when I addressed it and said he's not a 90-minute player yet. So not much has changed in 7 days, right? I mean, that's just how it is. He trained. His first training day was actually Wednesday before the Thursday game. So we're exactly 7 days from the time that we spoke about it last. And Gio, the soft tissue thing, like, I hate to label guys like that. He had one injury that was difficult to diagnose. It turns out there were some nerve issues there that they solved. And, I don't consider him a guy with soft tissue issues. One of the concerns that we have was just how the stomach virus affected him and how it's continued to affect him. And that was, he was on the field for 45 minutes and he was struggling. And after the game, it was a tough time and, wasn't able to hold the antibiotics down and he was still struggling. So, he's a guy that is going to be a major piece in the long term for this program. I'm not too concerned about tomorrow or classifying anything beyond, what happens tomorrow in the game.
If you could you share a little bit as to how you use data, physical data, in that sort of matrix, decision-making process?
It's not that difficult. We took a look at what he's been doing up until this camp, and then we realized what we need to do in that position from a physical standpoint and realize where he's at. And, the priority first was him recovering from a 90-minute performance in Dortmund and traveling across the ocean, and that was top of our mind. And as we start looking to, how much he can do, it was just being smart with it. And unfortunately, I think the stomach virus sidetracked him a little bit, sidetracked our plans a little bit, but it is what it is.
Imus.
Greg, you talked about the growth of the group from the beginning of the cycle to now. When you think back where the team was in September in El Salvador, not much experience as a group in qualifying, to where it is now. What impresses you the most about how it's grown? And as far as Costa Rica coming here, it's been a bit of a house of horrors for the U.S. here over the years, whether it's Pendergast calling you, Jurgen's last game here. Like, how much for you would it mean to finally kind of have a positive chapter here for the program?
Yeah, it's about the group, obviously, and it's about our team, and it's about our team trying to do things that other teams haven't been able to do. And that's why we embrace the challenge in Azteca, and that's why we're going to embrace the challenge tomorrow, because we're hungry. We want to do things, and when you can start checking off these things. I mean, one team has to be the team that does it first, right? So why not this group of guys? And when I think about the progress, it was really lack of experience. We got kicked in the teeth that first round, and that's what it was. We were potentially overconfident, not understanding what qualifying was about, and we learned that lesson quickly. And even then, it's still about just reiterating. It's about what you do today, not what you did yesterday, or not what you're going to do in the future, and just focusing on the next challenge up.
Sam.
Sort of going off of what I was just asked, obviously this group has grown a ton since September. You still have 8 months until a potential appearance at the World Cup. It's still a young group. How much potential for change do you think exists in that time period between now and now?
I think a lot. When you look at average age, we started qualifying, it was like 22, 23, and now you see it's up in the 24s, right? And that's just the indication of time, right? Time elapsing. And the guys are getting older, and guys are getting more experience, and they're playing more for their clubs, and they're playing in big games for their clubs. And look at Serginho, like the sky's the limit for what he can do in this next 10 months. So I think there's still a lot of room for growth with this team. I think there's some players that may even make a step up that we don't even really know about yet, or they're just on the fringes. And we'll have to see. Hopefully, tomorrow goes well. Hopefully we'll qualify for the World Cup, and then we can really start dissecting those things.
Megan.
Hey Greg, you mentioned the stomach virus, and I think before we heard 20-some players and staff caught that virus in Mexico. Sounds like Gio was really struggling with it against Panama. Can you talk a little bit about how many people might still be struggling with that virus, or is everyone recovered?
I think we're actually up in the 30s. I think the initial count of 20 was a little bit conservative, but there's very few people that weren't affected by it. And some people more than others. And some people got hit harder, and some people recovered quicker. But all in all, I think the group is getting to a good spot. I think we're turning the corner on it. There's still some guys yesterday that were a little bit up in the air, but I think we're getting to a decent spot.
Kyle.
Hopefully.
Yeah, Greg, Costa Rica has a lot of guys on yellow cards
Yeah.
that could potentially impact their
Yeah.
eligibility in the playoffs.
Yeah.
How does that element impact your able to kind of forecast who's going to be on the field, and how does that change how
Yeah.
the scouting process is? And then on top of that, do you have any general thoughts on the yellow card accumulation, just rules involved?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not going to change by tomorrow, but I think it's a dumb rule, honestly. We go 14 rounds, a guy gets a yellow card on the first round and the 14th round, he sits out of the biggest game. It doesn't make sense. And I feel bad for either us or Costa Rica that are going to have to deal with that. In terms of their lineup, we're projecting that they're going to play their best lineup, that they're going to go for it, but I can't, it may change. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. We have all their players identified on their roster. We've scouted all their players. We've scouted potential changes, and we go from there.
John.
Greg, speaking a little bit about the Costa Rican loss, they've been undefeated in their last 6. Last time you saw them, I don't think many people would have projected that their journey will continue no matter what happens tomorrow. Why have you noticed Costa Rica having this surge? What have they done to get into this position for tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they're able to integrate some younger players into it. They still have that experience. Defensively, they've been really good. They've given up 8 goals in all of qualifying, and not many lately. So they use their experience in the back. They have some young, dynamic players. They have experience in the midfield. They have a difference maker with Campbell. I think all those things have made a difference, and they got their backs against the wall, but they responded really well. And I don't think any team has taken more points in the last 7 games than they have.
Daniel.
Greg, we all know the mentality of this group, and the message is pretty clear. You still have work to do, but how difficult has been to handling that, to feeling very closer to the big goal?
It's not difficult, because although we're closer, we're not there. So there's still something to play for, and that makes it a lot easier. Until you're officially qualified, you're not there, and anything can happen. So we have to be aware, we have to be on guard. But I think you add to it the other part that we wanna come here and be aggressive and play our game.
And we will take a couple questions from those joining on video conference and start with Jonathan Tannenwald.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Greg, for the time, as always. This is not just the last World Cup qualifying game of this cycle. In a lot of ways, it's the end of an era for for the U.S. national team if they don't have to play qualifiers for 26, and for CONCACAF as a whole because the World Cup is going to expand, and we don't know what the format's going to be once the World Cup expands, but it's probably never going to be like this again, is what a lot of us think. I'm sure you have a view on that. I'm wondering, what you think of the end of an era here and one that you played in and have now coached.
I think that the qualifying process has been exciting for fans, exciting for the players, for coaches, and it's a part of the U.S. soccer history is based on what we've done in qualifying. So, it's going to change. That's our best guess, and it is what it is. I think we're all looking for maybe different formats of the World Cup, how we can make the World Cup more impactful, get more teams involved. So I can understand it, but it seems like the OCT is one and done, right? We're the lucky group that got to qualify with 8 teams.
We go to Paul Kennedy from Soccer America.
Thank you, Michael. Gregg, one of the things you've emphasized throughout the whole process is just how young the group you've worked with. How rewarding has it been to have this opportunity, which probably no national team coach will ever have had to, work with such a young group, especially also having overcome some of the challenges that young group faced throughout this process?
It's amazing. It's amazing watching them grow and watching them make progress and seeing them grow here as a group and gain experience and what they're doing with their clubs. Overall, it's been, it's a really good group of guys to work with. I can't stress that enough. And, hopefully when after 90 minutes tomorrow we're qualified for the World Cup and the guys can enjoy it and look back on their accomplishment and be proud of what they've done. No team in the world is playing our age team, and they've been doing a great job.
We'll take 2 more questions. Start with Kashmir Gomez Munoz.
Hi, Greg. Kashmir Gomez for ESPN here in Costa Rica. As a player in 2000, you experienced the atmosphere of a qualifier game here in Costa Rica. Tomorrow, it will be similar to that. 36,000 people in the national stadium supporting Costa Rica. Do you feel that this is an advantage for the national team, or your players are used to this atmosphere? Thank you.
No, I think it's a great home field advantage for Costa Rica. I remember that game that you're referencing, and it was one of the craziest atmospheres I've ever played in. A fantastic atmosphere. And it's just how you look at it. I personally really enjoyed playing in atmospheres like that. And our guys are also relishing the challenge. I think, Costa Rican fans are passionate. They create a great atmosphere, and we're really looking forward to the game tomorrow.
Last question comes from Andrew Jones.
Greg, you've been certainly invested in this all the way in this process and seeing the growth of some of your players in this process since the first game against Canada in Nashville. Can you talk about some of the players, as all of them have in this whole period, that have grown as leaders in this team, as well as your thoughts early in regards to your Tar Heels facing Coach K?
There we go.
One more time.
Nice. I'm glad I got asked about that. Listen, I think it's going to be a great game. And how fitting is it that Coach K gets to coach against Carolina in the Final Four? I mean, you can't. Have they ever faced each other in the Final Four? They haven't. Have they?
Never in a tournament.
And never in the NCAA tournament.
That's. I mean, come on. You can't write this stuff. You guys couldn't write that stuff. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. I'm pulling for the Tar Heels, and I think it would be fitting that, that the Tar Heels are the ones that knocked Duke out and for Coach K's last game. And, but having said that, when you think about a role model for any coach, it's Coach K certainly comes to mind for that much consistency, that much success, and that much leadership that he's demonstrated over that many years. A lot of respect goes out to him, even though he's the coach of Duke.